Well, hey, everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast. Top of the morning. We are in season 5. We are on video now for the last, I'd say, few months. And I'm grateful for our next guest, who we're going to be learning all about. And he comes to us because I heard him on a fellow guest podcast, the Beers and Careers podcast, our friend Mark Agostinelli from the fantastic Davis Companies. And our next guest, his name is Jamas LaFreniere. And his story as a sales executive, as a dad, and as a father who, which you'll learn shortly, has a child with a rare disease, which we're going to learn about. We're going to bring awareness to this disease. But not only is he a fellow Bass and Beaver, shout out Mike Restivo. I'm going to make sure you guys get connected. He was not Benny the Beaver, but that might be true. We'll find out soon. He's a hockey guy, which I love. I'm a Kraken guy, so we're going to talk all about that. We're going to learn about youth sports. We're going to learn about his journey as a dad, but more importantly, we're going to bring awareness to GSD1b. So without further ado, Jamas, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Anyone that's a friend of Mark's is a friend of mine. So this is an awesome connection. So really appreciate it and love what you're doing with the podcast and everything else. So thanks for having me, Casey.
You bet. Well, I appreciate you saying that. What's most fun for me is, like I said, we're in season 5 and we've had 260 some odd dads interviewed. We're no signs of stopping because I love just learning from other fathers. And between us, Jamas, I get free therapy from every dad out there I talk to, and I learn about things I want to do better. So
yeah, this could be good therapy for me too. So
I mean, it's funny. I joke that, whether you're an executive, you're a bus driver, you're a teacher, you're a play-by-play announcer for the Kraken, your kids don't care. Our kids, what they care about is, hey, Dad, can I go to Susie's house? Hey, can we get Slurpees? Hey, can you help me go get my license? It's like, so my goal is these episodes just to really kind of help us as dads remove our egos and work on being the most curious, humble, vulnerable versions of ourselves, so we can raise great kids and learn from dads in this community and just want to support one another. So that's really the goal.
Awesome.
So we always start each episode with gratitude, Jamas. So tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad today?
Geesh, that should be an easy one, but I'm grateful as a dad. I mean, I have 2 amazing kids. I've got an amazing wife. We've got a roof over our head, sun shining today. Of course, I mentioned it earlier. My daughter Sophie's homesick from school already, week 1, but she's doing okay. She's, relatively healthy other than that. So, yeah, I've got a great family. We've got a nice house, and I'm grateful for all of that.
Very good. Well, I'm grateful for a couple of things. One, today's my daughter's birthday. She turned 16.
Wow, and, big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. And
that's a big one. Yeah.
I'm grateful for the time that my wife and I are going to spend with her. Unfortunately, we're one less kid in the house, Jamas. I got a kid now in college, and that was a doozy. I'd say a week and a half of getting him out and pretty much watershed moment whenever I walked by his room, and it hit me way harder than I ever thought it would hit me.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for her today. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my son really adjusting to life in college. He's a college golfer.
Oh, nice. Where's he going?
He's going to a small school it's a fairly small school called Southern Oregon University.
Oh, sweet.
Which is down in
not
Medford.
Too far away. Right?
That's 7.5 hours.
I guess being in Boston, you think Oregon,
yeah,
Seattle, you're close, but that's not that close.
It's like the very southern tip. So that's but it's an hour flight, so it's easy to get there. But it's not like I can just come home quickly for the weekend because it is quite a distance. Yeah. But well, all right. Well, I always like to go inside the huddle. So bring me inside the family huddle to talk about who's on the team and then maybe let us know how you and your wife met.
Yeah. So my wife Margot, she's a nurse, an oncology nurse by training. Over the last few years and we'll talk more about it, just having little kids, but mostly, some of the extra special attention Sophie needs. She is now more per diem, so not working as much, but still really busy and holding the family together and doing a lot of the important stuff. And then I mentioned my 2 girls. So I'm a girl dad. So Allie is 8. So she's at school right now, 3rd grade, which is crazy how time flies. But, 3rd grade, it seems like it starts to get a little bit serious with school. but she's doing amazing. She loves school, plays soccer, really artistic, super creative. I think that she probably gets that from my wife. And then we have Sophie. So she's homesick today from school, but she's in first grade. And she's like the social butterfly. She loves her friends. She makes new friends everywhere. Awesome soccer player, loves trying new sports, and super funny as well. So yeah, so two girls, my wife who's amazing. And again, I think the nursing background, I mean, she really keeps the house in check and the family in check. So, and we have two cats too. So I was always a dog guy, but the girls really wanted cats. And being a dad, you kind of, sometimes you got to give on things. So we've got two little cats, Parisa and Belle. One of them is scratching at my office door right now. I can hear. So
we want to bring her in.
They bring us a lot of joy. The girls love them. They love the girls. So we have a blast. Yeah.
Love it. I had a cat growing up. Shout out to Bebs and Cat Heaven. But we're dog people now. We have two golden retriever Irish setters.
Yeah.
They're the best.
So we have Sophie, again, most people have cat allergies, not dog. Sophie has, we'll talk more about her medical stuff. She seems to draw the short straw quite a bit. She also has a dog allergy, not a cat one. We did all the testing and stuff, but so we settled that she is an animal lover. Like she is obsessed with animals. Actually, both my girls are. They both say they want to be vets or work in zoos, whatever it is. So we settled on the cats. They wanted to go get them, so we adopted two little kittens for them a couple of years ago, and they've been great. Super, super good with the kids. Relatively easy, but Sophie is still on us about a dog, and she comes up with these things where I think now she said when she turns 10, she gets a dog. I don't remember agreeing to it, but I'm pretty sure she'll kind of keep track of that.
I like
but she'll end up getting a dog. So I think her allergy is, it's funny. It's certain dogs, and obviously you can get the allergy-free dogs now. So she says she wants a Bichon Frise, which is a funny one, little tiny little thing. I think she likes the idea of carrying it around and stuff, but we'll kind of see where that goes. But she's a big dog lover. So she's counting down the days till we do that too, and add to the craziness.
I think she's got some of your salesmanship, sir, because she's setting expectations. She's got the pre-close. You're getting ready to get locked in, bro.
She is the salesman. She does not lose an argument.
There we go.
It's impressive. So
love it. And how'd you and your wife meet?
We met after college in Boston through friends. So for us, it was kind of pre-online stuff, and we didn't go to school together, but kind of made a connection after college, and stuck together for, we've been married now 12 years, known each other for 16 or 17. But we kind of did the traditional, we lived in the city just in Boston for, 5 or 6 years together. And then I think it was like right before we were having Allie, we kind of had that, oh crap, like we're going to have a kid. We probably got to move out to the suburbs. Right. And it came pretty quick. And we're both from different towns, but the same part of Massachusetts. So we started looking around, and it just so happened we found like a house we absolutely loved, like maybe 3 months before we had Allie. So it was pretty good timing, and did the old suburbs move, and living in Hopkinton now and love it. It's an awesome town, great schools, kids love it. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Before we dive into a little bit, I always say we'll rewind the tape and learn more about you growing up, but I want to give a huge high five, bro, for there it is. From you ran the Boston Marathon with Mark.
I did. Mark beat me.
Pretty
so
sweet.
I'm very humble. So yeah, Mark took it to me. He's a little faster, but so again, I was never a runner. I think we talked, I was a hockey guy, still am a hockey guy, but never into the long distance running. And living in Hopkinton, you do get the itch, and you'll see it. Like tons of people in town do run it. It's actually really cool because again, you have the start line of the Boston Marathon. So I say I'll never run a different one because I love the convenience. I literally walk to the start line. I don't like the idea of taking buses or traveling anywhere, but I think it's just it's like it's the history and everything about Boston, and the fact that it raises billions of dollars for charity is just, it's super unique and so cool in town. So I think I started to get the itch. I remember going up to the start line with Margot when the kids were like super young. And I said, like, you know what, I think I do want to run this. And everybody says that because you see the excitement. And then the next day you're like, I don't think I'm going to train for, 6 months in the winter for it. But I do remember saying at that time, like, if there was something important enough for me to do it, that's when I would do it. And so it just so happens, we've got our own foundation. So in 3 years, Margot ran it the first year we got a bib, and then I ran it 2 years in a row. So we've done 3 years. We've raised over 160,000 just from running the Boston Marathon. And I think like a typical bib kind of raises between $7,000 and $12,000. So last year we raised 86,000 from it. So for us,
wow,
and we can talk more about it, but yeah, I found that reason. We found that reason to do it, and it is, again, not being a runner and getting cortisone shots and physical therapy and running like straight through the winter. It is the training is the grind. And it's funny because I did that first one and everything went perfect, right? Like no injuries, never got sick, right? Which is kind of a miracle through the winter. Everything was perfect. The day of the race, it was raining, so I was kind of disappointed on that. But again, it was the weather besides some rain was great. Crowds were a little weaker, but I was like, all right, I'm done. And then a couple months go by, we get a bib for the next year. And I think I missed the discipline. I truly loved like being forced to run 4 days a week and stretch. And I said, even though your body is taking a pounding, it was the best. It's always the best I physically feel because I'm doing the stretching. I'm not drinking. I'm eating right, doing all the recovery. So for us, it truly, and it's also a great outlet. Like, I know Margot did it the first year, my wife, I did it these last 2 years. Like, it's a really great stress relief. I'm like on these long runs, I'm always thinking about fundraising or doing, different things we got to do for Sophie or whatever. So last year was a grind, couple injuries, still battling through it now, got some cortisone. Pretty much hobbled for the last 13 miles. But I was like, I said to the doctor, he was not interested. He didn't want to give me cortisone a week before the marathon. And I said, I'm like, I have to run this. I don't care if I never run again. Now I take that back now because now I miss running. But it was just something so meaningful. We had already raised like 80 something thousand. I'm like, I can't not do it. So got through that, and now I think Margot's been running. I think we want to keep the streak alive, like Margot and I doing it, just because I think from an awareness standpoint and from raising money, it's the best way to do it. And so I'll be back. Maybe it's next year, but I'm taking this year off from it. But yeah, I think it's the whole process and being a part of it, and just the amount of money that gets raised and the stories of people running Boston with illness. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. So super inspiring. I know everybody gets the itch once in a while, but I think our goal is to continue as long as our bodies will let us do it. We'll kind of keep grinding it out. So yeah.
Well, congrats, man.
Thanks.
Well, I always like learning about dads and how what was life like for you growing up, and talk about the impact that your parents had on you now that you're a dad.
Yeah, so I mean, where I grew up, father's a painter, so hard labor. Not a very super lucrative career. My mother was stay at home when I was little, and then she became a hairdresser. And continues to do that today. My father, the hard labor and painting and everything definitely took a beating, on his body. So, he's pretty hobbled at this point in his life. But I think just that instilling that hard work. My grandfather was very influential to me. So my mother's dad, and he was just the prototypical hard worker, worked in factories. Then he was a head groundskeeper and kind of built his own house type of guy, and an incredible grandfather too. So I grew up again, very humble. Like we certainly didn't have disposable income, but I still think about this today. Like hockey is an expensive sport, and I was never limited. I never couldn't play on a team. I never couldn't go to a tournament. So my parents always found a way, and worked hard for it. And I think that that's grounded me well as a father to kind of understand that, that it's not all about the money and that sort of thing. And it's about being there and kind of making priorities. So
yeah. Experiences.
Yeah.
How did, and now how did you get into hockey? Was it your passion or did your dad introduce to you?
I think it was my whole family. So even my mother, it's funny, like, you assume your dad, she didn't play hockey, but like they grew up in the 70s, or late 60s, 70s. And for if you're in Boston, that's the Bobby Orr Stanley Cup eras. So here's Sophie. So Sophie, you can say hi. She's homesick today. So,
hey, Sophie,
say hello.
Everybody, we got our first child making us. I know, I love it. This is awesome, everybody. This is why we got video. This is going to make this even that much better.
All right, say hi to Casey, but I got to get back on this, okay, kiddo? Can you give me some space? You good? Everything good? All right, come on. And can you shut that for me? Thanks, kiddo. It's fine. You can leave it like that. Okay. But so I think for us, it was. I think my grandfather was big into it, and like continued through college. He came to every game. We called him Pepe, so I think French for grandpa. That was what we referred to him as. But him and my grandmother, who was Mamone, Italian for grandma, they came to every game. But my dad was always, I think my dad played on ponds and stuff, never played competitive hockey or anything. No one on my dad's side did. There was a lot of football and other sports, baseball. They played every sport. And so I was definitely the first of kind of my family to get into hockey. And I just from the age of 5, I think when I picked up a stick, I never put one down. I mean, it was street hockey, ice hockey. It was any ice time we could get, I would do it, ponds, rinks, whatever. So it was definitely the family that got me into it, but it was never forced on me. It was never a legacy thing. Nobody played before me. So, but they supported it. I also played, baseball, soccer as well. So I was always doing something, which I love. And I love seeing kids do multiple sports now. Even through high school, I never fully specialized. Right. So although I played hockey in college, I played soccer and baseball right through high school as well. So, which is cool. And I know kids now tend to specialize, but yeah.
Love it. One of my son's best friends, actually, he's playing for one of those academies out near you.
Oh yeah.
He came from all the way from Seattle. Shout out to Rye Dog. He's playing for, it's not AHA. It's another one. It's I think it's in New Hampshire.
There's a lot. I mean, I did end up, and I talk about coming from a humble background, but I did get to go. I went to Lawrence Academy. So I here in New England for kind of hockey at the next level, it's either prep school or you can play junior hockey. But mostly when I was growing up, it was prep school. Like if you wanted to play in college, you had to, and prep school is super expensive. So between a neighbor helping pay for it and financial aid, I was able to go to a incredible prep school and continue playing sports and get an education. And then I mentioned too, going on to Babs. And so, I think a lot of that is we never had the money for all that, but if you have the will and, you have the network and the drive, you can kind of find your way to those places that, I even talk about Babs and I wouldn't get in there academically. Right. So especially with the financial aid and stuff. So sports played such a big role in my life. It still does, but it was pretty much my ticket to get a good education and probably go places I never would have before. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. We are, my son and I and family were I'd say we're newer to hockey just because we didn't grow up playing it. But since my son's best buddies, big hockey, and my buddy Steve, they were they're big Ducks fans. And so we were just dying for Kraken. And then when the Kraken came, we fell in love with it. And we literally watch every game.
That's awesome. That's such a great, I'm so glad Seattle got that franchise. And it's the best. The way the NHL does when they bring in a new team, they don't stink, and the Kraken were great, right? Great start to the franchise. So that's fun. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I was lucky enough to interview a guy named John Forsland, who's our play-by-play announcer.
Oh, cool.
And his story, since you're hockey, I'll get the episode. I'll text it to you.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
He is his story of how he got into hockey is unbelievable. He literally, he's from Boston area, and
Okay, nice.
when he was younger, he tells his dad, they would have his buddies over, because like his dad would have his buddies over, and they didn't have like good. No one really had cable in the area back then, so they had the phone, the wire on top of the house thing, and so he'd have his buddies over, and then John Forsland, he'd go to his dad. Hey, Dad, would it be okay if you put the TV on mute and I'll announce the game for you and your buds? And he's like, sure. And I'm like, God, the patience of your dad, because I was no, beat it, dude. I want to listen to the game. Yeah. But he let him do it.
Like
so that was
play guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And he ended up telling his high school counselor, he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a hockey announcer. And she's like, what? No, you're not. Who the hell does that? Yeah. And 30 something years later, he's like one of the most famous announcers in NHL.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That is neat.
Okay. So hard work. I love that. Obviously being, factory workers and painters. Any other like core values your parents really instilled in you that now that you're dad that resonate?
I mean, I think, my dad growing up, he coached everything too. And I just remember always a car full of kids going at rinks, right? So we would pick up, there was always a core group of buddies that I just know, either my mom or dad were driving to the rink or to the baseball field or the soccer field. My dad, I remember he umped Little League too. So he was just, very into that sort of thing. And everybody, everyone knew him and loved him. And he coached quite a bit. I mean, up until I got into more like AAA, or like the higher levels, but youth sports, he was always the coach, or at least an assistant. And my mom was my mom is the nicest, most empathetic, like caring person, super selfless. So again, priorities were always the kids, making sure we had what we needed and that sort of thing. So still is. I mean, she's still with the grandkids and stuff too. So. Yeah.
So I was going to ask, so mom and dad, are they still with us?
Yep. And my mom is super active with the kids, always around. Yeah, she is. She still hairdresses too, in close by, and so she's always around. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. I unfortunately I lost my pops in 2021, so we dedicated entire season 3 to him, which was he passed away during a tough time during COVID, but it was nice having this podcast because I could pay tribute to him every week. So I always say people with parents still living. I know sometimes are like those insurance commercials. It's easy to make fun of your parents. Whatever. I can't remember. But
those are pretty funny.
They are hilarious. But
they're true.
Totally true. Like, just embrace if you got parents still, everybody, dads listening, just embrace their shenanigans. Because when they're gone, man. And so I miss them still, but.
Oh, sorry to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I would love to, let's dive into the story of Soph and who made her cameo on the Quarterback Dadcast, which is awesome.
I'm just going to shut the door quick.
Okay.
Sorry. We're back.
That's all right. And if she makes another cameo, who cares? I think it's great.
Right. Yeah.
But I love to bring the story because when I heard this on the Beers and Careers podcast, shout out to Mark, I was like just drawn into the story of like, wow, what? Yeah. And so for what you feel comfortable sharing, talk about the story of GSD1b and Sophie and just we can bring awareness.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And it's kind of a part of what what we're doing, what keeps us busy. So, I mean, Sophie, you met her. I mean, she's incredible. She is not, I mean, there are limitations, but for the most part, she's developing great. She's doing all the right things. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the disease, but her, again, she's doing awesome. You guys got to meet her. But so she was diagnosed just before 2. It's called Glycogen Storage Disease Type 1b. It's more of it's ultra rare. I mean, I think we've identified well less than 1,000 patients in the US, probably a few thousand globally. So on the grand scale of things, it is ultra rare, and that presents a lot of challenges that we can get into as well. But she was diagnosed just before she was 2, and I talked about my wife Margot and her nursing background, and just again how smart she is and all that. And I think as a dad, you always, I think I was assuming everything was going to be fine, right? Oh no, it's, so it was Margot that really kept pushing and pushing doctors to be like, they'd say, oh, well, she's kind of fallen off the growth curve, or, well, she's not really eating food. And so we were doing all sorts of different therapies and trying to figure things out, or, oh, she's super fussy, right? Like she's always hungry. And I mean, now we know why, but at the time it was just, and me as a dad, I don't think it was denial, but I think it was more of like, oh, everything's going to be fine. Why, she's not going to have some sort of rare disease or something like that. So Margot kept pushing, and eventually through different appointments, and because a lot of kids would get diagnosed like at birth, right after birth. But for her to get diagnosed just before 2 years old is pretty rare. And the fact that we didn't have any catastrophic events is, I mean, talk about gratitude. We're obviously grateful for that, because there could have been seizures or, some really dangerous things happening while we were trying to figure out what she had and how to treat it. So she got diagnosed just before 2 through some, gene panel testing and all sorts of different trial and error type stuff. And they confirmed GSD1b. And I have no medical background. So like, I asked my wife whether I should take aspirin or Tylenol. Like, I don't really know any, it's like all that sort of thing. So when that diagnosis came out, it was a shock. And a little bit of disbelief. And to be completely honest, when it was delivered to us, we were kind of just given a pat on the back of, good luck, with a really weak treatment plan that now we look back on and it was completely wrong. And we live in the Boston area. So, you think of people in other countries or other parts of the world with world-renowned health systems. And when I came home, there was, of course, we all go to Google, Facebook, whatever it is. And there was nothing, nothing. And honestly, anything I'd find would be horrible. It was, death, it was bad. So
what was just maybe bring more awareness? Like, so what were like, you mentioned some of the symptoms, but what were some of the symptoms that made either you or Margo like, hey, something's not right?
So it's a lot of times it's that they're smaller. So whether it's growth, development, they're not walking like other kids or something like that. They're developing slower. But a lot of times doctors will say, hey, they're going to catch up. Just wait. Right. But for her, she was having a lot of food aversion. So she was formula fed. And that goes back to food allergies. There's all sorts of things going on with that. But to be honest with you, that was probably a good thing, because we were almost constantly feeding her. She wasn't really eating solid foods, but because we were giving her formula, even in the night, she was up a lot. So we were giving, we'd give her a bottle, and, again, we're like, what a pain in the butt. Like, come on, our first daughter, Allie, didn't really sleep through the night. Now we get Sophie, and now you look back and you feel terrible, because she was probably really uncomfortable and needed that food to live. Because what it is with GSD1b is that their body can't convert glucose into glycogen storage like you and I can, right? So she can't sustain energy or her blood sugar levels for very long at all. So that can lead to death. It can lead to severe hypoglycemia, so low blood sugar, which leads to seizures. And it's a very dangerous, life-threatening disease. And we'll talk more about kind of how it's treated now, because there are ways that we treat her. But that's it. So again, Margo kept pushing and got some of the gene testing done to confirm it. But still, for me, it was denied. I was like, why would she have this 1 in a million disease, right? But I think within like a week or so, when we found there was no information out there, it was like, well, I'm not going to not do anything. Like, I remember being down in the basement, like, what am I going to do? Just kind of hope and pray. Right. So we started Sophie's Hope Foundation within like probably 3 or 4 months of the diagnosis. And over the last few years, we've raised well over $1 million. We've invested couple 100,000 already into research. We hired an executive director to help other families. We've created a really, really strong global community, right? So we do virtual calls. We have, when a patient's diagnosed, there's a welcome kit, right? You feel supported. Because I think for us, when she was diagnosed, it was just, it was very lonely. And there was Facebook group out there, but it wasn't super helpful. So over these last few years, my wife's done a lot of it, but it's really been like, how do we create a community that helps each other? Because again, we're driving research. We do believe that we can get to new treatments. We can eventually get to a cure, but we also know that's going to take a long time. And there's really a lot of obstacles to get to that. But we know that just with education and with awareness and with community, that we can improve the quality of life for patients and for caregivers, because for caregivers too, it's pretty mentally draining, and a lot of sleep deprivation too. Yeah. Yeah.
How did this challenge, or just going through this, how did it impact you as a dad, and like, obviously not letting the fear hit you, but yet also be there to support Allie too? How was that challenge?
I think it's hard, but I think, again, having a wife, we're a really good team in this. But it's just, you just pick yourself up. I mean, yes, I have to get up in the night, and Margot has to get up in the night to feed Sophie. And when we travel, it's a nightmare. And before soccer, we have to make sure she has more cornstarch, but Allie's not limited. We make sure she has access to everything as well, but it is hard, right? And there's times where we both look at each other and want to say, this sucks, this isn't fair. But, my mentality is, and maybe I don't know if it's the right mentality, but it's like, it unfortunately, it is what it is. And we're going to make sure that the two of them have all the opportunities and, the best, success they can, and, make the best of it for everybody. And I think that was part of, did I want to take on starting a foundation, right? And all the work that comes with it, on top of, like you said, just being a dad and taking care of Sophie and Allie and everything, but nobody else was going to do it. So, you just got to do it.
Now, is that your full-time job now, or do you work for another
No,
company?
so I work, I'm in technology sales. So I work for a company called EchoStor Technologies, a great company. Spent 15 years between EMC and then Dell. So I have a full-time tech sales job, which is pretty demanding. And then I spend a lot of nights and weekends working on the foundation stuff, so. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. Well, I think your parents, your grandfather, the instilling of hard work, it's obviously coming out now. And I think I probably from a mindset perspective, like to take that on. And I'm sure there's days you're like you mentioned to your wife, like, what in the F is going on? But like, what are things you do to just stay mentally there that might speak to a dad at home going through a similar challenge?
I hate to say it, but we don't really have a choice, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, right? We get up, we take care of our kids, we go to work to pay for things, we keep trugging along. So,
Yeah.
And I think too, like for me, every time we go to, whether it's Boston Children's, I think that's really humbling, and I think you see kids that, that are in worse shape or going through different treatments. So I think for us, I hate to use that term, but it could be worse, right? There are people like, that are in worse situations or don't have hope. And we do have hope. Sophie's doing well. The things we're doing for the foundation are working. People's quality of life is improving. Ours is. We're developing new treatments. So I'm convinced that we will have, I'd like to say we will have a cure, it's impossible to put a timeline on, but we have things in development. But I know for a fact when she goes to high school, college, like it will be better for her than it was for others. And for, again,
So
kids
cool.
being diagnosed today are going to have it much sooner, whatever it is, right? Maybe it's better education, better treatment, better tools. But at the end of the day, there are genetic treatments that are being worked on that will ultimately improve their lives. So,
Are there more, since Sophie got diagnosed, are there more kids being, are you seeing the increase in terms of the number of diagnoses, or is it staying flat or declining or?
I think I don't know if there's an increase. I do think by us kind of being here and having a website and building a community, you're finding more people. But like sometimes someone's reaching out that's 30 years old and has been living with this disease kind of by themselves, or a parent that has a 16-year-old kid and they finally find you and find community and it helps. Or so it's not always just the newly diagnosed. Like we're still finding patients. I mean, patient in Alaska that felt super isolated, now joins the virtual calls, or someone from Estonia. Like, I mean, some really random, great stories of people finding us and finding community. So, I mean, I do think, I think all rare diseases are probably underdiagnosed and underreported. So I think the numbers are always probably higher. And I do think, unfortunately, especially in certain parts of the world, I mean, kids are dying. Right. And that, I just got an email this past weekend. So, so it's, so again, even though people see Sophie and, oh, she looks great, she's doing great. It's kind of one of those kind of invisible, we say like it can be a little bit invisible, the disease, and how serious it is too. So we're constantly, especially like her nurses at school are amazing and they get it. But that first year sending her to school, we were like, we don't want to paint this horrible picture, but it's like, we need people to take this
Serious.
It's life and death. Like
Yeah.
you cannot miss. So her treatment is she has to drink cornstarch every 3 hours, uncooked. We literally Argo cornstarch, mix it with water. And she's such a trooper. She just drinks it. It's disgusting. I've tried it. It's not good for her. I mean, the long-term effects are not great, but it's a complex carbohydrate that kind of helps balance her blood sugar because, in between meals, you get a lot of ups and downs with blood sugar. If you eat too many carbs, you drop. And unlike diabetes, her insulin works, but if she spikes her blood sugar from eating too many French fries, she can drop to 0 in 10 minutes. I mean, it happens fast. So, so like just the seriousness of the disease sometimes is hard for us because again, we don't want to paint this horrible picture. I don't want her to feel that way. I don't want people to be scared to be around her, but I mean, we don't leave her with just it's usually with like my mom or Margot's mom. If we're going somewhere, we won't leave her overnight. No way. But like for school, the school has been amazing. She gets to go to school like every other kid. She's doing awesome there. They know her schedule. And I think like we talked about just like technology too, like she has a Dexcom, which is made for people with diabetes. So a continuous glucose monitor. So I can check my phone, my wife can, and you can kind of see what her blood sugar is. And for a long time, it wasn't approved for anyone outside of if you had diabetes, right? So if you try to get insurance to cover it, they're going to say, no, she doesn't have diabetes, but we've done a lot of work and there's been work done to publish papers and scientific articles to make sure that kids with GSD get access to Dexcoms and continuous glucose monitors. Because again, I think about 10 years ago, like parents didn't have those tools, so much harder, but the technology is there and it's not perfect for GSD, for her disease, but it is a huge tool in the tool belt for us, for her. Like when she's playing soccer, we can watch her blood sugar and know if she needs to come out and have a snack. As she gets older, like, I'm sure it's similar in diabetes, like she'll sense it a little bit better. Like, I'm not feeling so great, but when they're little, I mean, it happens so fast that their blood sugars crash. So that's another tool there. So I don't know how I got off track on that, but
no, yeah. I wanted to bring awareness to this and hopefully there's a family, not not hopefully, but if there is a family listening that is going through something that doesn't know why, at least maybe our conversation today can bring awareness. And
I
I
think
want this.
too, and I don't mean like, I think that's important too, right? Like we're very, very hyper focused on GSD1b because that's what my daughter has, and that's my goal in life is to fix that and do that. But there's 10,000 plus other rare diseases out there, right? And they are all underfunded. They are all underrepresented. There's millions of people and kids out there with these diseases. So again, even though we're very focused on GSD1b, I have had a lot of other people or families with other rare diseases reach out and ask for help. How did you start a foundation? Because I do think for each disease, it is super critical that there is a single organization that represents the disease and fights for them and raises awareness and builds community. And because I mean, the reality is if you don't, nobody else will. And I don't blame, the pharma industry. I don't blame the government, but they're not going to go out there and spend millions of dollars to fix every rare disease. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. And that's why we've had to raise so much money on our own. Because there is no public funding out there and it's not, I mean, think about it. It doesn't have the cachet, I mean, you could use a billionaire example, right? Making a donation to a well-known disease gets a lot more people excited than trying, a multi-million-dollar donation could cure a rare disease, but it's just, we don't get those. And that's unfortunate. And again, there's a lot of not rare diseases that need help and we need cures for cancers and all that. But it's really hard in the rare disease space to get people to care. And to get, the FDA, different governments to even put a penny of money into it. Yeah.
Well, I want this next phrase to come out as inspiring because your story is inspiring. I know we've not met in person, but we're meeting on the computer. And sometimes when there's that phrase doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yeah.
And you never want to have to go through this. But what you and your wife have done, I mean, raising, they said over $1 million, have an executive director to do what you're doing and to have the fortitude, the mindset, the grit, the resilience. I mean, all these skills that you have and your wife has, your kids are watching,
yeah,
and they're learning. And I think there's just like anything. One of those phrases I love saying is, "Don't let the start stop you." And you could have easily just stayed on the sidelines and done nothing, but like you're taking action. And my wife, she always says you got to be your own advocate sometimes because unfortunately our health system isn't always the best.
Yeah,
and.
Yeah.
So I think just shout out to you guys for, I'm sorry this challenge has been hit you with you, but it's super inspiring to see what you're doing. And I hope that we can make sure, I know we'll put it in the show notes and get at the end. We'll make sure people know how to go to Sophie's, learn more about the foundation, how they can donate, how we can get other companies involved. And if there's, like I said, there's a family listening at home that's maybe we can connect them with you. And I think it would be just awesome. So impressive stuff, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think, the key there is that, we had a choice when she was diagnosed and I tell other families, you don't have to do what we're doing, right? Like, maybe you're in a different situation or whatever. So there's no judging or anything, but, we were faced with those two choices of, just kind of sit back and hope somebody else figures this out or take action. And I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, it's just not in my DNA to kind of sit back and relax. And so we had no freaking clue what we were doing. I had no idea what I was getting myself into in the sleepless nights but I'm super confident and happy and content with what we're doing. And I know Sophie's already reaping the benefits. And again, I say Sophie because that's why I'm doing this. But now that I've met all these other kids and these newly diagnosed and we've lost patients, like the drive gets bigger and the fire burns, brighter. but I know that it's working, and that's what kind of keeps me, like, I thought about it last night. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I'm going to burn out. But then you wake up and you just get back after it. So
Another day.
yeah, it is. And again, I know being a dad for me is the greatest honor and my favorite thing in the world. And making sure that my daughter has the best life, or both of them do, is my goal. So yeah.
No, I love it, man. Well, so as you think about like the lessons you learned, the journey you're on with Sophie, but just like overall, like with both kids, and as you think about like the values that you want to instill in your kids that that are most important to you and your wife, tell me what are a couple of the values that come to mind.
I think empathy. Like, I think I've learned, like I said, just being kind of on this side of things, where you do see people who aren't empathetic and just don't care, and just are very selfish, right? And it's unfortunate. So I think I want my kids to be super inclusive. I take that very seriously, right? Sophie doesn't have physical disabilities, but I want her to include, if it, I get very sensitive about that stuff, to the bullying, the inclusiveness. So I think empathy and inclusiveness is super important for my wife and I to instill in the girls. And I think, I still think that I think grit is super important. I think kids these days are kind of losing that a little bit. But I think that's what's kind of helped me get to where I am. But I think for my girls, it's I want them to find a passion. I want them to be passionate about something or that, and put their mind to it and put effort into it. I don't care if it's a sport, an art, or something like that. And just be inclusive and empathetic, and be a good person. I think I talked about that with Mark, right? Just being a good person, and it comes back in full circle. So I'm always checking in on the girls to make sure they're doing that. So
it's a good one, man. Empathy is not talked about enough. I also think the power of just being nice doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, I that's the one thing I joked with somebody. I kind of meant tongue in cheek, but I truly mean it. Like the one thing AI will never replace is being nice.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost anything. It just takes time, and just shows a little appreciation. And it's funny. When we dropped our son up to college in this town of Ashland, Oregon, it was almost like Pleasantville. Everywhere we walked, people were like, we're on hikes. People are, hey, have a good day. Like, wait, I mean, everybody was nice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we felt better. And I'm like, I like, I'm the guy that sometimes invites everybody and waves everybody. And my kids make fun. I'm like, hey, Dad, we got to go. I'm like, I know, but I was just talking to this guy real quick. And it just, it's fun. So I love the fact that you guys are teaching your kids that, and because the world needs more of that.
We do. We need more empathy, more inclusiveness, and kindness. I think you're right. Kind of hit the nail on the head there.
So one of the other questions I like asking dads is there an area of your dad game where you might not like it? That's like, this is a gap I got to work on, and I can lead my witness if you want.
I can. No, I don't have great patience. My wife knows it. It's always my mother knows it. My friends know it. I'm just not very patient, which in certain parts of life has served me well. My work, my career, work, Sophie's, stuff we're doing to drive research. But with the kids, I would love to be a little more patient. So I definitely get frustrated easy. So,
I'd say give yourself some grace. You got 2 full-time jobs, 3 full-time jobs as a dad, running the foundation, and then obviously being a tech sales guy. You got a lot on your plate. So I think grace is a word I like to use a lot. Is all we can do is be our best version of ourselves each and every day, and we're all flawed humans. We all have gaps, but it's funny. Patience is my gap too. And my dad, rest in peace, Pops. He could drop the most amazing goddammits at me as a kid when I was a kid. God damn it, Casey. And they had this phrase. He would say, "Shut it up." I'm like, that's not even grammar, Dad. What does shut it up? And would make me and my sister laugh hysterically. So I was like, I always told myself, I don't want to be a goddamn guy to my kids. And I remember at times losing my patience, and Lily would stop me. He's like, chill out, dude. It's not a big deal. And so even now talking to so many dads, it just reminds me. That's why I asked the question. Selfishly for
Yeah.
me, it's like I'm going to be more, and I have improved my patience.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm always in a rush, always on the go. You know, even on vacations, I'm like, God, I gotta, yeah, going through the airport. I don't know if it's an anxiety, stress thing or whatever, but yeah, certainly a self reflection that I've been aware of for pretty much my whole life.
Maybe
So,
it's your hockey. It's like you got your minute shift. You're just
I
in
don't
and
know.
out.
I Again, it's not a horrible thing. It's that you know, but it's something I've always known. I wish there was a better way to work on it. So the kids know, but they,
Yeah.
like you said, they tell me to chill out. So.
All right. Well, before we get into some fun lightning round, and we also make sure everybody knows how to connect with you and the foundation. If you were to summarize kind of what we talked about, that dads could take uh, from our conversation, call it 2 or 3 nuggets of wisdom or values or things to be thinking about, where that they can learn from our conversation today to kind of take back their own lives and be that ultimate quarterback, the leader of their home. James, tell me what comes to mind.
I guess for me, just especially just relevant to our story and our situation is just kind of teaching empathy. And I think you brought it up, kindness. I think for us, because we're in this space, and I also know a lot of other families in situations with medically fragile kids or disabled children. You know, I think the idea of inclusiveness and empathy, and I think dads have a big role in teaching that to their kids. Right? It's pretty easy to not care or walk away or maybe even chuckle or something, but I think kids pick up on that stuff, and I think I think dads have a big role in making sure their kids are inclusive and that bullying doesn't happen and kids aren't being left out at school or on the playground.
Love it. Well, their dads are always watching,
Yeah.
and uh, with a kid in college now and a junior in high school, I can remember like when I had kids your age, and they're now we'll hear stories and they remember stuff. I'm like, how did they remember
They
that?
pick
So
up
they
on
are
everything.
always watching,
Yeah.
dads.
Which can be
Uh,
good or unfortunately bad sometimes.
you're
So,
right. You're right. But I think sometimes leadership is more what's seen than said,
yeah.
and how they see us treating our wives, our friends, how they see us hard work. Even like funny, like this entrepreneurial journey I'm on. At one point, my daughter, I feel like she was like my sales manager during like right out of COVID. She's like, "Hey, how many calls you got today?" I'm like, What is this? You got KPIs now for you? What the hell's going
That's
on?"
good. I like it.
But
My kids, so they both sometimes think I just work for the foundation, they say. And I'm like, they say I'm president. I'm like, okay. I have another job too, but yeah.
well, how can people learn more about you? Maybe in your tech sales job, how can they learn more about the foundation? How can they get involved? Tell us what's the best way they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're Sophie's Hope Foundation we're on Instagram, so at Sophie's Hope Foundation. I got a LinkedIn as well for Sophie's Hope Foundation. Not as active, a little bit more focused on business oriented stuff, but Sophie's Hope Foundation on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram is a great way. And then sophieshopefoundation.org is our website that I'd like to update more often than I do. So sometimes it's a little behind, but there's always a ton of information on there for folks. And, my email's on there. You can email Jamas at sophieshopefoundation.org, and I'm always happy to connect. And if someone wants to connect about the space of rare disease or starting a foundation, I'm always happy to share what I know. So
Love it. Well, the story's been inspiring. I cannot wait when this episode goes live. We will be tagging all those social media links, and I hope there's a person listening right now. If you're at a company that has
mhm.
funds to donate to help bring awareness, let's get this disease cured. Let's help give Jamas and his colleagues and his families the means to help, because no kid deserves to go through this, and the fact that you guys have done so much is fantastic and inspiring, and it's just super cool, and I hope, like I said, we bring some more awareness.
I appreciate
Um,
that. I will. Do you mind if? So I do think that the key for us is that the limiting factor, unfortunately, probably is money, right? You know, we have the technology and the we know enough about the disease to fix it. So again, I know people always care about where their money goes and that sort of thing, but you know, we're never going to have too much money or even enough money because we can always do something quicker, better, faster. So so the money that we raise, the impact is just, it's enormous. So thank you.
Yep, you bet. Well, I will make sure, like I said, when this comes out, we're going to tag everybody, and please everybody reach out and help, because it's going to be exciting to see this thing cured one day.
Yeah.
Okay. It's now, James, time to go into the lightning round, where I show you the negative hits of taking too many hits in college, not bong hits, but football hits. Yeah. And your job is to answer these questions as quickly as you can. My job is to try to get a giggle out of you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. True or false, Mark Agostinelli was always hoping to be Benny the Beaver in college?
False.
Okay. True or false, Mark ran the Boston Marathon in a Speedo?
False.
Good visual, though?
Pretty good.
Okay, we both laugh. Tied. If I went into your phone right now, what would be the one song that everybody at your company would be shocked that you listen to?
Everything Taylor Swift, because of the girls.
Swiftie?
It's Here we go. It's not. They are.
You're a Swiftie.
Yeah,
be honest.
It's every time we get in the car. It would probably come on when I plug my phone into the car. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite hockey player is?
I'll go Pasternak.
I was going to say Pasta,
but I was Bergeron for so long. But he's retired now, so we'll go Pasta. I love watching him play. But
my buddy that I see on Cuddy Hunk, I went up to his kid one day. I said, "Hey, did you hear the trade?" He's like, "What?" I go, the Bruins just traded Pasta for Grubauer, our goalie." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "No, I'm messing with you."
We still need to sign Swayman, so yeah, we need our goalie.
Here we go.
Yeah.
If I came to your house right now, what will we have for dinner tonight?
Salmon or chicken. And Sophie, a lot of our food is dictated by Sophie's diet, so it is pretty boring. Yeah, I shouldn't say boring, but it is pretty. We have to very careful diet because of her restrictions. So probably chicken or salmon.
There we go. And if you were to go on a vacation right now, just you and your wife, where are we going?
Easy one is Hawaii, because we went like 10 years ago, and we always say we want to go back, and we know we're not going to be able to until we can, maybe bring Sophie. So that's the easy one, but I've been there, so I think I would throw out Croatia, maybe somewhere I've never been. I don't know. I'd love to go somewhere I haven't been, but Hawaii's the one I know I would love to go back to.
Wow. That sounds, yeah. Well, Hawaii is close to us. It's easy. It's easier to get to from Seattle
I know it's a beast of a trip for us, but we went before 10? We had kids, and it was incredible. So yeah.
Yeah. We love Hawaii. I've been very grateful to go there. Okay. If there was a book written about your life, tell me the title.
Cure GSD1b.
Let's go. All right. Now, Cure GSD1b is selling out every airport, every bookstores. Amazon can't print enough copies. And now the movies are looking to make a movie out of this bad boy. You are now the casting director, James. I need to know who's going to star you in this critically acclaimed hit new movie.
You're catching me, and like I'm not good with TV and movies, so I couldn't even. Let's see, who is. I got nothing. I mean, I don't know.
Vince Vaughn?
I see. You're gonna not. I'm not a Vince Vaughn guy in general.
Will Ferrell?
I'll take Will Ferrell. He's the funniest guy going.
Will Ferrell's going to show his soft side.
How about I'll go with Dana Carvey? You can get a goofy. I'd find him to be. He's my favorite. He's a riot. There you go.
I think that's the first Dana Carvey we've had on the other 260
I think
episodes.
I just listened to him on, and his impersonations are just so funny. But
they're so good.
I don't know. I don't want to. I don't know who they'd cast for me.
Okay, and then last question. Tell me 2 words that describe your wife.
Smart and amazing.
There we go. Lightning round's over. We both giggled, but I think I giggled more at my own jokes, which that's what dads do.
Well, those are tricky. The TV stuff. Yeah, I'm not up on like the TV stuff. So yeah.
Well, it's not like you have a lot of
actors.
downtime.
Yeah. Like I probably would have said someone that's been retired or something, you know? Yeah.
Love it. Well, I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful that Mark introduced us. I'm excited to help share more about Sophie's Foundation. And we're gonna make sure, like I said earlier, this is tagged in the show notes. Everybody, please reach out and connect with Jamas. Please, if you have the means, please support him. These links will be in the show notes. When this episode goes live, there will be links in all the social media posts where you can donate and just learn more. And if there's a family going through another challenging rare disease, you're not alone. And there's people that want to help. And but I'm just grateful for your time, and I hope our paths might allow us to meet in person one day, James. That'd
Yeah.
be fun.
I would love that. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
You bet.